sortent le soir, les fantômes aussi. Le ciel est tout noir, les nuages sont gris. Est-ce que tu as peur des méchants esprits?
Oh, le ciel, oui, 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 oui. C'est l'Halloween, c'est l'Halloween. Hey! C'est l'Halloween, c'est l'Halloween.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Halloween. Today is, I don't even know what day it is. What day is it? Friday, October 31st. Very spooky Halloween. Today, actually, I have to make an announcement, a show announcement. Tomorrow, we are going to do the kitchen table talk instead of Sunday. So Sunday, I'm very busy. I'm just very busy. And there's lots of things that are happening over the weekends. And I have a couple extra things being layered on. And so I'm doing my best. I want to do a kitchen table talk, but I'm not going to be able to do it if we do it Sunday. So I'm changing it to Saturday, 1 o'clock. I will send the email tomorrow as usual. And so I hope people can make it. But if not, I'm sorry, everybody. I know it's short notice. I'm hoping to get back to normal schedule next week. But again, I'm going to double check because I'm not sure. So things are up in the air there. The CAF is apologizing to everybody, I guess, for their racism, except for the white people. Everybody else, they're apologizing for the racism on behalf of white people, I guess, something like that. But it's very, very strange considering the context of what's going on in our country at this point in time. So it's strange to have the army all apologizing instead of focusing on its damn job. People are fleeing Canada after the cost of living crisis, or I guess right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the cost of living crisis. People are leaving Canada. It's not surprising because, well, I heard somebody do a write-up. I have family in Florida, and they did a little here's a update from our family. And they said, you don't understand how crushing the taxes are in Canada until you've lived for a year or two without the taxes, and you realize how expensive it is for nothing. And how, she said crushing it is, but how it makes you feel pressed down, right? And then you go and you do other things. And she had a whole paragraph about healthcare. She's like, you think we get a good deal? We get a crap deal. It's hilarious. But people don't know because this is normal for us, right? It's like people who live in North Korea and they think that Kim Jong-un is a really good golfer, right? Like it's the same thing. People just don't get it. And so people are leaving and then realizing how much better it is outside of Canada and then telling Canadians, except they get censored, right? BC councillor says a $100 million project was denied a loan over the Cowichan case. And the bank says, no, that's not the case. That's not it. It was something else. There was another reason. And they said, oh, can you tell us the other reason? They said, we can't comment on this. We can't comment on things under, conflict or whatever. So no, they can't tell you anything about anything. And what else? Coquitlam, BC is targeted in another Indigenous land grab. It's going to go very, very well. And the token is, it's going to go very well for the First Nations people who want the land and the money. And they just want everybody who bought that property to just shut up and take it. This is totally going to have no problems, right? Everything is going to go fine. There's not going to be any conflict. I see no problems. I see no bumps in the road with this. People are insane, absolutely insane. So lots to get to on this Halloween. Let's get to it. First, we are starting with Halloween, right? Say Halloween is probably the most Canadian holiday song out there. Do people outside of Ontario understand what Say Halloween is? I think it was Ontario that had the teacher that wrote this for a French immersion place or for a French immersion school, and then he retired off the YouTube revenue from it, or he's just sold it and retired off that revenue, which is great. That's wonderful. But here is Halloween or Breaking 911. Donald Trump puts chocolate bars on top of children's costumes for some reason. The reason I'm showing this is because our prime minister refuses to participate in Canadian holidays. And so we don't have a lot of Canadian culture being displayed. The prime minister is out of the country touring South Korean subs for some reason. I don't know, but he's not celebrating Halloween, but Donald Trump is. And so here's a stand-in Western leader to show us our culture and, do the things that you would expect a leader would do if the leader cared at all about the country. But Donald Trump is weird and does weird things. And like how he says industry and how sometimes he'll put the candy in the bag, but sometimes he'll just put it on top of costumes. Why? I don't know. That's what rich people do. Why? What are you doing? And like this kid's costume, he's a marshmallow. And so the marshmallow thing is very flat. So like you could, okay, there. And what is that kid going to say? Like, Mom, the president put a chocolate bar on my head. Just say thank you and walk away, Billy. Like yep, that's what happened. It's fine. Here's a minion, same thing. Okay. Why? I don't know. Spider-Man these guys get it in the bag, but I think she was going to put it on that kid's head. And then the minion gets it right on the head. There you go. Why? What are you doing? This is not how you do that. So rich people are a little bit out of touch. So this is maybe I should just start putting chocolate bars on kids' heads. That'd be funny. The food professor is talking about an inflation. Have you bought Halloween candy? I found Halloween candy and it was mispriced at Walmart, and I bought 3 of them. And I was like, well, I put it in my cart because it said $7.77. And they said, well, it's not $7.77. I said, yeah, but the price says $7.77. And we walked over to where it was, and it was like a whole shelf of these things, and it said very prominently $7.77. And he just looked over at me. I was like, $7.77. He's like, yep. So I bought 3 of the damn things. I was like, yeah, buddy, load it up. And I already had them in my cart. It wasn't like I grabbed more, although I thought about it. But it's expensive. It's expensive, way more expensive. They're trying to kill the culture of Canada through economic force, unfortunately. The food professor is reporting the increase in Halloween candy even over last year. It's gotten more expensive by quite a lot over last year. So the candy breakdown, what's haunting wallets in 2025? Ooh, scary. Mini chocolate bars are 15% more expensive than 2024. Gummies and hard candies, 10% more expensive. Mini chip bags, 12% more expensive. Licorice and taffy, 8%. Seaweed snacks. Okay, skip the seaweed snacks. Here's a tip. Don't give out seaweed snacks. Okay, that's the end of the tip. Up 5% because people weren't buying them last year. Okay, that's why. Cans of soft drinks up 10%. I stopped buying colas when they started trying to sell 12 can multi-packs, which is half of what they used to be. When I was a kid, you couldn't get 12 packs, you could get 24. If you didn't want 24, you weren't buying any pop, okay? Buy a bottle. That's it. And the bottles were glass. But it was 24. And then they brought in the 12s. 12 cans for $11. I said, nope, not buying that. Sorry about your luck, guys. And that was it. And then they backed off because they realized people will not buy it. And so now I think it's $7 or $8, but I still won't buy it. Like, I won't buy it. It's poison. It is poison. And it's just I drink very expensive water, and it's really, really good. I have a water machine. That's why it's expensive water. Anyway, UNN, it's not expensive after a couple of years, but at first it feels expensive. Anyway, UNN is reporting, here's the tokenization of all money. So if you don't do crypto, and I didn't do crypto I knew what Bitcoin was when somebody bought a Domino's pizza with 25 Bitcoins. And I thought to myself, maybe I should get some of those. And I didn't. So more fool me. I've known what this crypto stuff is for a while, but in order to deal in crypto, in order to buy crypto, sometimes you have to buy a stable coin. Like if you load a crypto wallet with US dollars, and then sometimes you have to buy certain coins in order to buy the coin you want, or that's how it worked when I was working on an exchange or using an exchange. And so you had to buy US stablecoin, which is just pegged to the US greenback. And so the US greenback floats up and down. And so the US stablecoin floats up and down. So if you have 100 US dollars, you're going to get 100 stablecoin US dollar counterparts. And then you buy your Bitcoin. And so he's saying all the currencies are going to have digital twins, and all the currencies are going to be on this ledger system. And that's just going to be how all money is eventually. This is the guy who took over for Klaus Schwab at the WEF. Okay. So UNN is reporting BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says every currency, ETF, and asset, everything will be digitized and tokenized with a global settlement layer connecting it all. Total control over money. This is who people should really be angry at. So yeah, this is the tokenization of your money. It's not good. It's bad. I would even say very bad. But here's Larry Fink.
I would say the biggest question from central banks is, what is the role of tokenization and digitization? How quickly should they think about digitizing their own currency? What does that mean for the role of the dollar? If every currency digitizes and we have, what does that mean for bank payments? What does that mean for the payment companies like MasterCard and Visa? All these are being questioned right now. I think we spend so much time talking about AI. We're not spending enough time talking about how quickly we're going to tokenize every financial asset, and the opportunity we're going to have a digital wallet and moving, ETFs and other things through a digital wallet. And I think that's going to happen worldwide very rapidly. And I think most countries are ill-prepared for that and underappreciate how technology is changing that, not unlike how technology is changing AI and other things. It will be changing the technology around the plumbing of finance.
The title of the show is almost The Plumbing of Finance, but I thought that doesn't really convey what I'm trying to say here. People aren't going to know. I find it interesting that he says technology is changing AI. You don't say. What? These people aren't smart. I don't think they're smart. They're running scripts. His idea of technology driving forward and all of the digital assets being tokenized, I'm not saying that he's necessarily wrong. And I think it's like a genie is out of the bottle kind of thing. Like this has already happened. It's already happened for you and me too. You send Interact money transfers. This is a digitization of the Canadian dollar. This is not something that's out of the ordinary or anything like that, right? So that people are used to it already. And so what he's describing is maybe just a modernization and what's the word when you an acknowledgement of the way things really are, rather than looking at it through a prism of, because cash exists, the Canadian dollar is fundamentally not digital, but people use it in a digital way fundamentally now, right? And so it's one of those things that, is he just stating things the way they are, or is he pushing for a full-blown reimagining of money? I genuinely don't know. It seems like the second one to me, that they're trying to reimagine money so that they can have full control on a ledger, right? But we're walking into it anyway. We're doing it anyway. Blacklock's reporter says Governor of Bank of Canada reverses years worth of forecast, says recession now likely, if not already underway, and that our standard of living is going to be lower for years to come. Well, that's not great, but they didn't tell us there was a crisis. Right? People have been saying since 2017 we're in a recession. And people have been responding here, like these guys, Friends of Science say, please watch our video explainer and our 2 open letters to the Bank of Canada. Kirky says it feels like we've been in a recession for 10 years. Other people say, yeah, like this recession is kind of standard now. But it's interesting because, again, this goes back to the tokenization of money. They're trying to take control of this system, and it benefited them to say there's no recession, there's nothing wrong, everything's fine, don't worry about it for a while. And now it benefits them to say there is a recession, and so the messaging changed. It's notable for sure. Wealth Moose says the Bank of Canada says expect a lower standard of living. Carney says we must sacrifice. Meanwhile, Ottawa, the source is Global Affairs Canada, of International Assistance Report. Canada is sending $2.1 billion to Ukraine, $165 million to South Africa, $172 million to Haiti, $164 million to Bangladesh, $151 million to the West Bank and Gaza, $104 million to Pakistan, $115 million to Ghana, $106 million to Nigeria, $107 million to Kenya. Total foreign aid is $12.29 billion in Canadian. That's enough to fund every Canadian food bank with $2.2 million each. I don't want to fund Canadian food banks. I want to stop sending money to foreign countries. I want to stop stealing from citizens to send money to foreign countries. It doesn't make sense to send billions of dollars to foreign countries, does it? I don't think it does. Drea says land grabs. Let's talk about the land grab that's going on. Drea says another BC city, an Aboriginal title claim has already been in play for Port Coquitlam. The Coquitlam First Nation. I'm getting that terribly wrong. I'm sorry. I'm like not even in the ballpark, I would say. KFN is seeking hundreds of acres, including the Riverview, the Colony Farms, and the Gates Park area. Private land titles appear to not be at stake. Private land title appears to not be at stake. Yet, continues Drea, when I questioned NDP's Nikki Shamra, the Attorney General supposedly defending Richmond landowners' property rights, about the legal risks to land acknowledgements, she acts as if my question on the public behalf is irrelevant and anti-reconciliation. It's a 4.5 minute clip, so we're not going to watch it right now. But again, these people treat reporters who they view as right-wing as dirt. They treat them like terribly. And so I think our public discord needs to be fixed in that way. I think the people who are being elected to represent citizens should stop acting like entitled brats. Steve says bank denies financing for $100 million project in Richmond due to uncertainty over First Nations title. As I said, in the banking world, there is no such thing as two titles coexisting. Right, that's true. Here's the news article from BIV, Business Intelligence for BC. Councillor says $100 million project denied, loan over couch in case. Bank says not a factor. So Richmond, BC councillor, the bank, a BC councillor says a company based in the city has been refused financing for what she says is a $100 million project because of uncertainty over the site due to the Cowichan Tribe's Aboriginal title ruling. But the bank, identified by the councillor Alexa Liu, said the issue was not a factor in its financing decisions. Liu said the company, which she wouldn't name, is now working with the provincial government to get certainty it needs to go ahead with what she describes as a manufacturing facility in the title area. So you need help from the government in order to get a loan in the current configuration of things, which isn't good. It's a lot of bureaucratic layers for not much payback, right? Just people getting paid to facilitate something that really should be a lot easier than it is. Quote, this company had a deal already in place with one of the major banks to finance their project, Lou said in an interview on Wednesday, identifying potential lender as National Bank. She said the company already owns the land for the planned facility in the Cowichan area, but was told by the bank that it doesn't want to deal with new projects at this time because of the uncertainty stemming from the court ruling. So it's not an existing mortgage that's being pulled, but they're canceling this project for now because of the uncertainty over the land title and because of the appeal process could take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to 10, Lou said. Asked if it had denied funding to such a project, the Cowichan title area, because of the case, National Bank initially said in one sentence response that no specific directive has been given to our teams regarding this court ruling. In a second statement, hours later, the bank said, we cannot comment on specific cases for confidentiality purposes, but what we can confirm is that this is not a factor that is currently taken into account in our financing decisions, and no guidelines have been issued by the bank in this regard. Lou has previously spoken on the situation with residents before a meeting with landowners on Tuesday about the impact of the landmark case that confirmed the tribe's Aboriginal title over about 750 acres of private and government-owned land in Richmond. When asked about the case, the city of Richmond provided a statement from Lou saying the firm is loath to discuss its financial situation publicly. So we're not going to do this, and there's nothing you can do that'll make us do this. And sorry about your luck. We're just not going to do this, and that's that. See you later. Pretty wild, and there are real consequences. There are businesses that are being held up, and people who are unable to move forward because of these rulings that have been made possible by a lot of years of bad policy that have been pushing us in this direction. This hasn't come out of nowhere. This has been, the ground has been seeded for years with land acknowledgements and nonsense like that. And now people are surprised that this is going in this direction. It's just getting started and very, very concerning. Here is Canada Proud. And I think I have to do, I don't know. I'm not sure if, I don't know if I have enough time afterwards to do the post-production, so I might just do a whole show and just leave it at that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a whole show. So we're not going to have a break for paid and non-paid. We're just going to go through the whole rest of the show. So here's our grab bag of governance. And Canada Proud is reporting Mark Carney's budget is set to include $54.6 million to support the LGBT community over the next 5 years, including $7.5 million to provide security for pride parades. Wild. John says our kids' classroom has 3 autistic kids with almost zero support, 40 minutes per day if there's no behavior issues. But gay people, like 1.5% of the total population, no, it's less than half. It's less than 0.5% of the population. That's the real numbers. But gay people get $55 million. Why? It doesn't make any sense. What funding is this for? Why are we doing this? Tracy says our smart village canceled 3 large community events due to lack of funding. Victoria Day fireworks, Binder Twine Festival, which is over 100 years old, and Canada Day barbecue. But if we all declare ourselves LBGT, we'd get funding, right? And so our culture is being destroyed and replaced with this rainbow communist bullshit. And it's bullshit. And we shouldn't tolerate this. We shouldn't fund this. We shouldn't fund foreign countries. We shouldn't fund gay pride parades. We shouldn't even really allow gay pride parades. Honestly, the gay pride parade was a day and now it's a season. And that's offensive, right? Like there are things, by definition, the LGBT community excludes 90% of the rest of everybody else, 99% of the rest of everybody else. It is a very exclusive club. And I guess if you don't ascribe to it, now you're on the other side of the Canadian government, and the Canadian government's going to crack down on you for not falling in line with the LGBT agenda. No, thank you. And I don't think we should be funding it. And again, public funds, public spaces, public everything should not be dedicated to celebrating people's sexual orientation. What a cracked, weird thing to focus on and spend money on. Holy smoke. Like, our culture is cooked. What a ridiculous... Our government is forcing this down our throats for no good purpose other than to replace our culture. Mario says, I'm sorry our government failed you. Westgate Sentinel says, Canada's Great Escape cost of living crisis drives record exodus in 2025. Ontario accounted for 25,604 departures, or 47% of the national total. People are leaving because this place is not viable. We're heavily taxed and our freedoms are at risk. Anyway, Mario says, I'm sorry our government failed you. What have they done? Statistics Canada reports 54,530 Canadian citizens and permanent residents left the country in the first half of 25, the highest January to June total on record. So people are getting out of Dodge. Yeah, well, when the Canadian government does crap like this, their focus is not on keeping us safe. Their focus is not on Canada. Their focus is on kowtowing to the rainbow mafia, the woke mafia, right? So here's Canada's top general cries during apology for systemic racism in the armed forces. Unbelievable.
Systemic racism, racial discrimination, and harassment are an affront to these values, and yet we allowed these injustices to occur and fester within our ranks. Therefore, on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces, I offer my most sincere and deepest apologies. I apologize to every CAF member, veteran who experienced racism, discrimination, and harassment.
Bullshit. Utter bullshit. Discrimination against unvaccinated troops, unvaccinated people who are working in the Canadian Armed Forces continues to this day. There's been zero accountability. They mean nothing. It's like you destroy somebody's living room and then 20 minutes later you walk in or 3 weeks later, after making no attempt to fix it monetarily or no attempt to come and help clean up or anything like that. You destroy their living room, you wreck their TV, their couches are destroyed. They had to get whole new living room furniture. They had to replace the floor. They had to get new carpeting because of what you did. And then you walk in weeks later after not doing anything at all to rectify the situation. You say, I'm really sorry for what I did. Get out. You didn't do anything to fix anything. Get out. Liars. I'm really sorry with tears. Oh, sure. I don't believe them. They're liars who are manipulating us. I'm sorry. And it's not even me that she's apologizing to. And then it would be like apologizing to the downstairs tenant for being noisy while destroying the upstairs tenants or the upstairs living room that you destroyed. Canadian Armed Forces is tweeting this out. And they say today's apology for racial discrimination and harassment is a hopeful step towards restoring trust. Shove it where the sun don't shine, buddy, because restoring trust takes accountability. And at this point in time, the CAF is a woke dumpster fire of nonsense. So get effed. I'm not interested. Jamil Giovanni says, I've heard from many concerned citizens, enough is enough. On November 17th in Ottawa, I will host the National Forum to End Liberal Racism. It's time for a change. End liberal racism. It says Canada's federal government. This is the endliberalracism.ca. Canada's federal government must move beyond liberal racism to treat all citizens fairly and equally. There's no real definition of what liberal racism here means. And so I think like what it means is that entitled, if we didn't give black people an opportunity by lowering standards and or, whatever it is, then they would never get ahead in life. Like we have to give black people all of these things or fill in the blank, right? We have to give this racial minority, whichever one it is, all of these things. Otherwise they won't succeed. That's the liberal racism I think he's talking about, but it's not really, I don't think it's described here, but I could be wrong. Hold on. Oh, maybe it's described in the second paragraph here. Let's read. Through policies like DEI, liberal racism actively undermines the talents and abilities of Canadians from minority communities while excluding many Canadians from employment opportunities and government programs. That's affirmative action as well. We're seeing universities talking about hiring only trans people or only people from certain ethnic minorities for reasons of checking off diversity, equity boxes. And that's racist, and we shouldn't tolerate that. But we had rules about that before. You couldn't own a business and say, I'm only hiring white people. So get out, you Sikh, get out, you whoever, right? I'm not hiring you. But then flip side, there have been Canadian white people who have, specifically white people who have gone into Tim Hortons, and then they were told that the Tim Hortons is only hiring not white people. And then you look around and it's everybody else. Everybody else in the Tim Hortons is Sikh, right? And it's like, okay, or Indian anyway. So weird, right? Like that's a weird thing. And so we used to have, and it used to be like in the 90s, if somebody was hiring based on skin color, that would be a scandal. You can't do that kind of stuff. Even familial nepotism, like even hiring your family was kind of not looked down upon, but like people would kind of give you the gears for that kind of stuff, right? Like you had to appear fair in your hiring process to the point where I was participating in interviewing people in 2007 or something like that. And the interview was supposed to be double, triple blind or whatever, right? Like, so we weren't supposed to know anything about these people, and we got packages to read. And then we had a short list after reading these packages of talents of these people, and then we went and met them in person and interviewed them and so on and so forth. All women, by the way. So double blind my butt. But still, right? Like there was supposed to be some kind of fairness in the hiring process, and you certainly couldn't say we're only hiring minorities or we're only hiring women for this. But that's exactly what they seem to be doing, and that's racist. And we used to have laws against that. So it's weird that we're doing this kind of weak end run around it. We should sue the crap out of people who are hiring like this. We should sue them for their policies that say we're going to have, like the CBC, we're going to have 30% of our workforce affirmative hire. We should sue people who do that. We should make affirmative hiring illegal. We should talk about policies that the conservatives are going to bring in that are going to make the hiring practices fair again. This seems like bullshit. It just seems like bullshit. It all seems like bullshit to me. Anyway, liberal racism also encourages contempt for Canada's rich history and traditions. Enough is enough. It's time for change. On November 17th in Ottawa, Jamil Giovanni will host the National Forum to End Liberal Racism. Can we get like our laws enforced as we used to have? Melissa says, these layoffs and job losses in Canada are hard to keep reading. Another one, CN Rail. So CTV News is reporting on October 30th, CN Rail lays off some 400 managers as tariffs take a bite out of our shipping volumes. And still, our government doesn't care. Mark Carney's got nothing, absolutely nothing for his trade route. He's just got a tour of a submarine factory in South Korea. This guy says, the more I think about this tweet. So this is another thing that the conservatives are just not really doing at all. Here's Aaron O'Toole, and he's responding to this guy. And so Aaron O'Toole, these guys were having a conversation about Aaron O'Toole is kind of weak, right? Aaron O'Toole says, I worry about social cohesion, but fear the laziness of many with great potential is a worse culprit than most of your list of gripes. Own your shit and strive to do difficult and important things. Your whinging is embarrassing, or is quite emasculating. Coming from Aaron O'Toole, that's hilarious. The Black Horse says, XSO, against my better judgment, I took Aaron O'Toole at his word and reread some Edmund Burke. What I found was what I remembered, a body of thought focused on drawing conclusions about good governance and the rights of Englishmen from the history of the English people, blah, 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 blah. But Aaron O'Toole gets upset when people start criticizing COVID-19, and he says, good grief, of course you turned it into COVID gripes. You're missing the point completely, but maybe I should not be surprised. Timbet says, COVID wrecked a generation of children and destroyed most of the vestiges of social community on this side of the internet. I know as I'm one of them. And Aaron O'Toole says it was tough and divisive, but nothing was destroyed. Dust yourself off and look forward. And I disagree. I think Canada was shown that the politics is all fake. I think that the illusion was destroyed for me, right? And this guy says, the more I think about this tweet, the worse it gets. This level of tone deafness explains a lot of why the CPC is the way it is. Aw, shucks, you missed being by your father's bedside when he died and your mother had to grieve alone. Just dust yourself off and look forward. Aw, shucks, you say that your small business was bankrupted while Walmart and Amazon banked billions in profits. Just dust yourself off and look forward. It ignores what they did, and it ignores what they're doing now to stifle any kind of ability for Canada to develop its natural resources or develop its businesses. We're a very anti-business country, unless the business is giving government tax dollars to your buddies, right? Unless that's the business. So Aaron O'Toole represents everything wrong with the Conservative Party because he's tone deaf and apparently an idiot. So Holly Doan says, PS Integrity Commissioner, what's this one? The Office of the Public Sector Integrity Commissioner Harriet Soloway says that she needs triple the number of lawyers to handle growing complaints against federal managers. Surge of submissions left backlog of hundreds of whistleblower complaints of alleged misconduct and corrupt practices. I'm shocked. So they don't have the lawyers to go through the level of corruption that is being reported by whistleblowers. Oh no. I guess they'll just get away with it because we just can't get through all of this mountain of work that we have to do, and nobody's going to hire any more lawyers to do it for us, right? And the unfortunate thing is that's probably pretty close to true. They're just going to get away with it because these files are going to age out, and that's it. Past the statute of limitations or past the statute of really anybody even looking at it, right? Because we can't crush through it now. So use AI? I don't know. CTV News says religious symbols ban. Quebec passes a law to prevent students and staff from covering their faces. There's a woman who was fired for refusing to adhere to the religious symbols ban. So she's hoping to trigger court action to stop this thing. And it looks like Quebec's having none of that. So you can't cover your face. You can't cover your hair. And covering their face, I guess you can cover your hair still, but you can't cover your face. So interesting. And we'll see how this whole thing plays out. Culturally, Canada is being destroyed. And I'm more confident saying that every day. And that's not good. That's bad. Like, that's a very, very bad situation to be in, because what happens when the culture flips? It's going to be faster than you think. You're going to look around and wonder, how did these laws get passed? And then you're going to realize that old stock Canadians are not the majority anymore. And the people who are the majority are passing laws that none of us would agree with. And that's scary, right? Here's Tara Armstrong from 1BC. She says, today I introduced a bill to mandate all new migrants pay for their own health care, the first of its kind in Canada. Everyone who benefits from our health system must chip in. And I believe that I think that it got voted down already, but here's just a little bit of this.
I move that a bill entitled New Resident Health Cost Recovery Act 2025. British Columbia's healthcare system is under tremendous strain. Last year alone, British Columbia added more than 150,000 new residents, the fastest increase in over 60 years. And nearly all that growth came from international migration. Non-permanent residents now make up 7.3% of everyone who calls this province home. Emergency room waits are reaching 14 hours, and more than 1 million British Columbians are without a family doctor. That's why I'm introducing the new Resident Health Cost Recovery Act 2025. This bill requires new residents who are not yet Canadian citizens or permanent residents to pay an annual health registration fee of $7,500 per person as a condition of coverage under the Medicare Protection Act. That amount reflects the average annual cost of publicly funded health care in BC. The fee will be adjusted for inflation each year and will cease once the individual becomes a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen. All revenues will go into a dedicated health cost recovery account used only to administer the Act and fund health services for new residents. Most new arrivals earning modest incomes as they get established naturally contribute far less in taxes at first, yet their care is just as costly. This bill closes that gap fairly and transparently so that everyone who receives publicly funded health care also helps pay to keep it strong for the future. Thank you.
And I think that they've already voted this down, but I don't think I have the clip for that. So apologies. I'll let you know. But a lot of the things that One BC is setting up are not being adopted because the NDP are ideologically opposed to common sense. Michael says, nothing to see here, just another communist known as the Mandini of Minneapolis, who's about to be elected mayor in yet another major city in America. Omar Fatah waves foreign flags, speaks a foreign language, pledges his loyalty to Somalia, and tells Somalians to elect him. This is a rally in Minneapolis. This is happening in Canada. Do you remember Ahmed Hassan telling Somalians in, where's his riding, Toronto somewhere, that white people dance, or conservatives dance with white supremacists, right? Like it is not abnormal to feel like this should not be the mayor of Minneapolis. I don't think. I think it's quite a normal response to think that guy doesn't look like the most Americans I know, and it's weird for him to pledge allegiance to not America. So this whole thing feels strange. Here we go.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Somalia. Somalia. Hiran State. Mawisle. Mawisle. Early voting was hadda illa November 4. I need your vote. I need you. Hadan.
Crazy town. I think that he's been placed by people who don't like Minnesota, or Minneapolis, right? Minnesota is the city, right? So I think that Minneapolis, Minnesota, right? So I am not convinced that this is not part of a big attack. I don't think that this is a kid who came and appreciates what America has done for him and wants to grow up to be the mayor of Minneapolis in order to give back to the United States. Like, that's not what this says to me. This says he's somebody coming in to help Somalia, and the Somali people in America do whatever Somali people in America do, because not American Somalians, not Americans, Somalian people in America. So he's pandering to them, and it seems really, really strange to me. And it seems weird that that's even controversial. People, you should look at this and say, this guy clearly shouldn't be the mayor of a major American city. Same with what's his name? Mandini, the same thing that's happening in New York. It doesn't seem organic. It seems like an attack. And people are just ignoring it because they're afraid of being called racist, because they're afraid of people censoring their YouTube show. Like, this is effed up at every level. It's crazy. Danielle Smith says, today Ontario launched their feasibility study to build a new Canadian East-West pipeline and energy corridor. This advances commitments we made earlier this year between Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario to identify areas of collaboration, including new energy and trade infrastructure for oil and gas, critical minerals, and more. Together, we are proving what's possible when provinces lead and stand together to advance a shared vision of responsible development, economic freedom, and common sense. That means standing up for our energy sector and ensuring our world-class resources reach the markets that need them so Canadians can prosper from the opportunities we create here at home. This study will explore the benefits of building new pipelines with Canadian steel to carry Western Canadian oil and gas from Alberta and Saskatchewan to new and established refineries in Southern Ontario and new ports on James Bay, Hudson Bay, and the Great Lakes. So, great. That's a good idea. We should build a pipeline in Ontario that will carry oil to every city that's on the 401 corridor. And then we'd have even cheaper transport costs for our oil. And that would make things even cheaper for the consumer who needs oil, which is oil and gas, which is pretty much everybody, right? If you drive a car, you need gas and oil. If you have a house in Ontario, most of them are heated with natural gas. So like, if we had pipelines to support that infrastructure, that would be better. That would be better in a lot of ways, although I think natural gas is probably set up. But we could do the same for gas stations, lower the price. Anyway, moving on just a little bit to net zero. Hosna says the Senate in the United States just voted 52-45 to unleash America's energy future in the Alaskan Arctic. This isn't just about oil, it's about securing our nation's independence, creating jobs, and delivering on Trump's day one promise to end Biden's Green New Scam. 13.3 million acres of potential now open, but let's not forget the wildlife and indigenous communities. Balance is key. Speaker Johnson, it's time to get this to the House fast when the Schumer shutdown ends. This is how we win for all Americans. So we'll see if the government shutdown ends for them to get this passed, I guess. But it'll be interesting to see if they actually develop Alaska. And this is the reason why we saw Trump declare victory over the hoax of global warming and climate change yesterday. This is why. This is what was going on, because these moves were in place. And I'm sure that we're going to see drilling in Alaska and all the rest. And it seems cold. It seems cold to me. It seems colder than, it's cold and rainy, and it's October 31st. So it's the end of October, beginning of November. And in the last few years, sometimes it's been really warm on Halloween. Sometimes it was a really rainy Halloween here a couple of years ago. And it's been warm the last couple of years. It seems colder than the last couple of years, but maybe I'm misremembering. It's easy to misremember weather. Anyway, moving on a little bit, let's talk about Alberta. Here is David, and he says, listen to this man. He's the leader of the independent movement in Alberta, and he has put in the work, and everything he says is correct. He says, we have to show up. People have to show up. One of the things that I think people forget is that Danielle Smith made promises and bussed people into the AGM last time. And so if you think that she's going to play a non-rigged game, I have bad news for you. You can read about that on Canada Poly. I responded here. The link is right here if you're interested. And so here's this guy saying, you got to show up. My initial concern is that even if people show up, the bussed in people will outnumber the people who show up. And that's annoying. And the reason, well, I don't know for sure if the bussed in people will actually outnumber those people, but when the ballots are counted, the bussed in people will definitely outnumber those people because it's rigged at multiple levels. Here we go.
Everyone that's been feeling the pinch on all the increased costs and all the losses of the rights and freedoms, the endless amount of censorship bills that are coming out from the federal government, we have a path. And the path forward is a free and independent Alberta. In order for us to succeed at anything that we're going to do politically, we need to show up. It is imperative that we show up. We can no longer sit on the sidelines and watch. The reason that we are here is because of our apathy and our lack of participation in our democracy. It's very important for you to show up to the AGM because numbers do matter here. I want everybody to put everything aside and make this a priority. Please join us.
Okay, so unfortunately, I feel like people miss the forest from the trees, and they say the reason we lose is because our side doesn't care enough and people don't show up enough. And because we don't care and because we don't show up enough, that's why we lose. And I think that it doesn't matter if you have the most people showing up. If you have the most people showing up, somebody will say, this is a racist terrorist gathering, and you guys are racist and terrorists or something like that. And if you have the most people showing up, the ballots won't reflect that because things are rigged. And so people who are enthusiastic maybe don't know the ballots are rigged. I don't know, but they're attributing it to apathy, where apathy is not, if people saw results, they do that stuff, but they don't see results unless they're on one side. One side sees results, and so they get crazy. They get whipped into an ideological frenzy, right? And that's the left. They see results when they do these things. The right comes out for a protest or something like that and gets targeted by Antifa, right? The right comes out and gets the police coming out and writing down their license plate numbers. The right comes out and gets made fun of online by everybody who can make fun of them, but it's mostly sock puppet bot accounts. And so what we need to understand is it's a rigged game, and we need to figure out a way to fold that into our strategy. Because if we ignore the idea, or if we dismiss this idea that it's rigged, and we don't strategize around it to counter that stuff, then we're going to lose because it's fucking rigged. It's rigged. So blaming people and saying you don't care enough, that's not it, man. That's not it. CTV News is reporting students across Alberta show support for teachers in a walkout. There were kids, and it was deleted, so apologies that I don't have it, but there were kids who were punished in a school for not walking out. So the students walked out, and these kids stayed in the school saying, like, we'd rather have you teach us, miss. And so they got put in study hall and got told to write an assignment about the bad. I think it was about the bad things that happened to people who stood up to the government type deal. And so, like, a report on 3 people, and they offered people's names, like, to look into. And so that's weird, right? Like, I'd rather stay here and do my lesson. So can you continue with the lesson? No, instead you're going to do this special project in the study hall because the students are walking out. So this is politicization. This is going towards politicization of the students. This is going towards Alberta unions trying to have an Alberta general strike to unseat the United Conservative Party. And isn't this more dangerous than what the truckers did? No? Weird, right? It's super weird. Here's Mario, and he is talking about crime. And he says, reminder, you can murder 2 people in Canada and be out on bail while you await trial. This guy's been out for 2 years now, still no trial, and he's not denying that he did it. He was just insane at the time. Global News is reporting betrayed victim's family outraged after BC double murder suspect granted bail. So he's out on bail, and there's no trial, and just deal with it, Canadians, right? Like, if you do something wrong, you Canadian, we're going to throw the book at you. If you say the wrong thing on the internet, you're going to jail, buddy. You are going to jail. You can't say that. That's inciting violence, right? Having suspicious eyebrows about headline news, that's inciting violence. But actual violence and murder of people, you get out on bail. Go ahead. You don't have to be in jail. We don't even have room for you in jail, you violent criminal, you, right? We've got room for Mark. He can stay in the broom closet, but not for you, you criminal, you. MJ Truth Ultra says, oh boy, into the heart of darkness we go. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is now being investigated for funneling millions of dollars into Chinese PLA fronts, violating IRS rules, funding foreign governments, according to, and here's the link from the Senate Judiciary. And so that's interesting. Yesterday I was reporting that Bill Gates was under Senate investigation. This is just a little bit more information about that. Again, this is the reason that the climate change thing is collapsing is because climate change was an attack on American energy in order to undermine American warfighting ability and give the advantage to China. And so Bill Gates was funneling millions to Chinese PLA fronts, People's Liberation Army, so Chinese army fronts, violating IRS rules for foreign governments. So it's a big deal if it's found out that this whole hoax was a military psyop in order to give advantage to China. What does that do to the green agenda and China-owned Canada, right? Like 51st state, here we come. So it's just, This seems like a big deal that's not really getting a lot of play, but we'll see if it all develops that way. It could just be a nothing burger, right? Or it could roll out like a nothing burger. BNO News says Prince Andrew has been stripped of all royal titles and evicted from Windsor Mansion, police say. So a statement from Buckingham Palace on Thursday, October 30th, 2025. Now, Devil's Night, October 30th, holds symbolic value for people who follow, different religions and stuff. And so the royals are announcing this on October 30th. A statement from Buckingham Palace. His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has to date provided him with protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternate private accommodations. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors and any and all forms of abuse. And that's that. That's the statement on Prince Andrew. So now Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor, and he's done. We'll see how that all plays out as well. The only person to have any kind of consequences from Jeffrey Epstein so far are Prince Andrew. That's it, I guess. And he's not even really arrested. He just loses the ability of being a royal, right? So crazy. So CBC watchers reporting, let's talk about trade very quickly. Mark Carney on Friday accepted an invitation from Xi Jinping to visit China as they sat down for the first formal meeting between a Canadian prime minister and the Chinese president since 2017. The meeting, which lasted nearly 40 minutes, yielded no concrete results. Sounds like Carney, such as concessions in a punishing trade war between Canada and China that is hurting Canadian farmers and fisheries. The meeting yielded no mutual agreement. Okay, so Trump can negotiate a deal with China and can't negotiate a deal with Canada. Canada can't negotiate a deal with anybody because we're ridiculous and everybody knows it. And I think we're owned by China anyway. Like, sure, officially the prime minister hasn't met with Xi Jinping in a while, but there's over the last 10 years, there's been the two Michaels, all the shenanigans, the Twitter diplomacy stuff, all sorts of weird stuff going on with China. And again, I feel like we're not being told the whole story. And Carney's pivot to, we have to deal with China in order to save our trade relationship because our relationship with the Americans is over, feels disingenuous. Feels like we're being manipulated. There's a movie, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and it's about two con men, and the con men play off each other, right? And the con men are lying, and like, because you're watching the movie, you're in on the con, right? And they lie to everybody in order to get what they want. And so, like, we're being conned, and they're using the media and other apparatus to lie to us to get what they want. And I can see it. I can see it, and I'm very confident in my conclusions. Although, I could be wrong. Sure, I could definitely be wrong. But it seems like that to me. So CTV News says Carney tours Korean shipyard that's vying to build Canada's next submarine fleet. Oh, man. We can't build submarines in Canada? Like, we don't have shipyards in Canada at all? What about Davie? What about Irving? South Korea. We need the South Korean shipyard. Somebody said these are going to be built in Philadelphia. Weird. Super duper weird, right? So we don't have the expertise. We have what the world wants, except submarines. We don't have submarines, but we have other things the world wants. Mark Carney's ridiculous. It's funny that he has to go to foreign countries to tour shipyards for spending billions of dollars. We can't do that here? We can't do that in Canada, buddy? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Quick invasion stuff. Doge Wales is talking about their legislature. It's called the SNED, I think. And Senedd. I'm getting it terribly wrong. I'm sorry. But he says he's responding to this one. Tory MPs slams Plaid and Labour's asylum seekers plan. So they want to make Wales into a nation of sanctuary for asylum seekers. And they're trying to do this. And here's this woman talking about this.
Labour ministers supported by Plaid Cymru, are ploughing tens of millions of pounds into its nation of sanctuary policy that is believed to support services for some illegal immigrants. Under the Welsh Labour government, waiting lists, educational standards and opportunities for young people have all ground to an abrupt halt. It is shocking, therefore, that the Labour Welsh government isn't prioritising these issues, which would make a real difference to the people of Wales. Instead, Labour ministers supported by Plaid Cymru are ploughing tens of millions of pounds into its nation of sanctuary policy that is believed to support services for some illegal immigrants. Does the Honourable Lady agree with me it is high time her colleagues scrapped this wasteful, non-devolved policy and instead focus their time on lowering NHS waiting times and improving standards in the clerk?
Yeah, and they dismiss it. So as they usually do. I guess maybe we should listen to the response here.
It sounds like the member opposite doesn't agree with welcoming the thousands of Ukrainian refugees, which the UK government's nation of sanctuary has largely supported.
No, I don't. Next question. Next question. Because everybody coming in to the country should be not getting free stuff over top of people who are waiting for the taxpayer services that we are failing to deliver. And that's true in Wales. It's true in Canada too. And it's insane that she's pivoting to Ukraine. Part of the complaint is the NHS. Part of the complaint is we pay tax money to have this service available, and people who are coming in and don't pay tax money are taking that service from us, and we should stop that. And these people say, I can't believe you're against Ukrainian migrants coming in and getting help. And it's so dishonest. It's so dishonest. And people don't, in the heat of the moment, people don't realize these rhetorical tricks to get your brain thinking about something else. Let me give you an example, okay? I play piano. And so G, and I'm learning piano. So I haven't played piano for years or anything like that. I'm been playing the last year and a half, and I'm getting pretty okay at it. But for G, it's tricky. I play chording on my left hand. I'm playing lead sheets. So it's like a whole song rather than playing notes on a piano. Anyway, it's chording on my left-hand side. And G requires me to move my hand a little bit. So when I'm practicing, I can move my hand effectively and hit G. But when under pressure, I can't move my hand appropriately to hit G under the pressure, right? And so oh shit, I forgot the point I was trying to make. Damn. Now I can't remember the point I was trying to make. Under pressure, it's different. Under pressure, when you're trying to achieve something. Oh, right, when you're having these rhetorical tricks. So like when you're standing in the legislature and you're under pressure and you ask question X and they respond with a pivot to Y and you don't understand what they've done, it's like me trying to hit the G, right? You're under pressure and you're like, oh my gosh, they're talking about this, but my question was about that, and I can't reconcile it. If you're not fast enough to understand what's going on and how they're trying to not answer your question by pivoting away, it's the same as me trying to hit that G under pressure doing a song, right? It's like, oh, F, it doesn't sound like G. And the people there will get caught up in the rhetoric rather than respond or stay focused on the question that they're trying to ask. Sometimes when I'm having a debate with somebody, I will, in preparing for the debate, I'll write down my main question and then draw a circle around it in the middle of the page. And then if ever I get caught up, I look down at the page that I've got. And if I'm not talking about the thing that's circled in the middle of the page, then I've been tricked. I've been rhetorically removed from my goal and I have to get back. So that's my little trick to stay on topic and to not let people pivot me away from things that I'm trying to accomplish, right? And so, but a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people don't understand the rhetorical tricks of speech and the rhetorical tricks of being in a place like House of Commons or legislative thing and having the back and forth. If somebody pivots like that, they can catch people. And I would say they catch at least half of the people who are in there because they don't know, they don't have the experience, they don't like politics nearly as much as I do. I don't know. Anyway, Tony says, moving on just a little bit, let's talk about the United States and then we're done. Tony says, a woman warns, make sure your pantries are stocked. Losing SNAP benefits won't just hurt recipients, it'll crush businesses that depend on them. If 42 million people lost benefits, local supermarkets, restaurants, and small stores could collapse overnight. Okay, I saw a chart. Matt Walsh had this chart. Yeah, this chart here. So apparently in 2019, the monthly cost for food stamps was $4.5 billion. And then by the end of Biden's thing, it was $11 billion. So the monthly, by 2022, monthly, it was $11 billion. In 2019, December 2019, it was $4.5 billion. So the stimulus this is offering isn't what built Walmart. Like I was in Walmart in 2010. I was in Walmart in 2015. And yes, there was stimulus. There was $4.5 billion in stimulus. And now there's more than double that, right? But this stimulus didn't build Walmart. So the predictions of collapse are not correct, I don't think. But this woman, it's going to have an impact. And I think the main place that it's going to have an impact is the stock market. The value of the company will go down because like if your monthly profit includes this $5 billion of SNAP payments, right? If your monthly profit includes that $5 billion and then all of a sudden that $5 billion goes, right? So all of a sudden we're back at 2019 levels. Your investors, the people who are owning your stocks, are going to say, whoa, what happened here? And they're going to get upset. Meanwhile, they didn't ask any questions when 4.5 billion doubled in 2 years. They didn't ask a question about that. They're like, oh, I guess people are just buying more. Don't worry about that, right? Meanwhile, it halves and they're like, what happened? What did you do? What problem did you cause? But it's all the government putting their finger on the scale, and it should be illegal. It should be completely illegal. They shouldn't be able to do this kind of stuff. Anyway, this woman's saying the impact on the businesses is going to be massive. I think it's just going to be at the stock level, but I could be wrong, but here we go.
Make sure your pantry and your refrigerator is stocked up, because this SNAP benefits situation is not just going to affect those that receive SNAP benefits. It's going to affect the grocery stores that you shop at, because guess what? As quiet as it's kept, those grocery stores are staying afloat and get a lot of money from these benefits. So what happens when the benefits aren't coming in? Are they still going to be able to purchase apples and waffles and all this stuff? This is the news story that they need to be talking about. But I guess they don't want to scare people because they don't want to stampede on the grocery stores. I advise you, I'm not fear-mongering, make sure your refrigerator, make sure your pantries are stocked up. Get your staples, your rice, your peanut butter. Make sure you get water, paper towels, toilet paper. Nobody want to be wiping their butt on old shirts because of whatever. I'm not fear-mongering. Just we are heading into unprecedented times. I hope that the situation turns around, but prepare yourself. Kiss my sunshine.
Yeah, somebody's saying, I bet the Dems cave at the last minute. Yeah, maybe. If not, they're going to have a civil war. If not, things are going to kick off. And the problem with that is I think that the powers that be want a civil war. And they're going to say Trump did this. This is Trump's fault. And it clearly is not, but they're going to say it is. Benny says, I'm convinced we could pay off our entire national debt by doing 3 simple things. Ban all non-citizens from welfare programs. Ding. Number 2, strict enforceable work requirements for EBT, SNAP, and Section 8. I just don't think you should have EBT, SNAP, or Section 8. You should have jobs, and those jobs should be low barrier to entry. So like not skilled work. Like you're coming and you're gonna have a shovel. You're gonna stand and hold a sign. Like these are not skilled labor. This is whatever. You're gonna get enough money to not starve and to probably pay your rent. But you got to use your money the way you're gonna do it. But don't give people SNAP and say, oh, now that you've got this money, you have to work for it. Nope, work first, please. Number 3, mass prosecute welfare fraud with federal prison time for stealing from taxpayers. Yup, absolutely. And the last one is Trump's making a deal with China. He says tremendous amounts of soybeans and other farm products are going to be purchased immediately. On fentanyl, we agree that he was going to work very hard to stop the flow based on his statement today. I reduced the fentanyl tariff by 10%. So China's trade is going well with the United States, and Canada is in limbo because our government, fundamentally, I think they want us there. I think they want us in limbo. I think they want us to be in a arrested development situation, because the longer we keep everything the same, the longer that we do nothing about the governance structure that we're under right now, then the longer all of their bad programs continue to run. So like every day that our borders are open, every day that we're putting people up in hotels, every day that we're giving foreign aid, all that other stuff, all these programs are running. We are being bilked every single day. And so if they can't move their agenda forward, well, they've got quite a lot of stuff going for their agenda by doing nothing in Canada and just saying, okay, we're not going to do anything. We're going to keep everything the same. And so they keep everything the same, and we get used to it. We acclimatize to how terrible things are. And then they say, okay, they're acclimatized now. Let's make it more terrible. And they do. And we say, oh, that's terrible. And then we acclimatize, and then they make it more terrible. And so we should really stop it, because it's going to get worse. And I fear it's going to continue to get worse. So I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope we were able to forge a path through this that is less communist and less technocratic China, and more what I lived through in the 90s. But as I said at the beginning, it seems like we're not doing that anymore. It doesn't seem like in the 90s, a lot of people were using debit and Interact, but people used cash. And it feels like being able to go back is not how we solve this problem anyway. We should strive, I think, to fix the culture. Because if we don't fix the culture, we've lost everything anyway. So that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for your support. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.